All right, welcome back. It is time for us to have a look quickly at the newspapers. And the very first top story here is one that is very interesting. I see Taming False Prophets. So, religion on trial is the subheading. Government is introducing radical measures that seek to put an end to cultism, devil worship, and nefarious religious activities being pushed by men and women of dubious character. The measures include fresh registration, enactment of new laws, and prescribing punishment for outrageous belief systems. And that is the story on pages 4, 5, and 6, which I would say is actually something in the right direction. I see radical surgery on policy, legal, institutional, administrative measures on religious organizations is one of the recommendations. Others include deliberate policy measures to curb extremism, sects, cults and other similar outfits. More on the same distinct statute, which clearly assigns a legal personality to the organizations, lays down registration requirements, and provides for offenses committed under the pretext of religion. And lastly, standards and minimum certification requirements for religious organization and leaders. This is definitely something that is needed in our country at such a time as this. We have had stories. I mean, Shakahola being the biggest that we experience, and I know that there are more huko ndani ndani ambazo hata labda hatujui, but we'll be following up on the same to know how well this is followed through with. And page 2, Ruto nominates Oduor Attorney General as Kulmore, EAC Minister. I see here Oduor has previously served as Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. Moore is a former executive in charge of water, irrigation, and agriculture in Turkana. On the same, Felix Koskei, the head of public service, saying Senior Counsel Dorcas Oduor has vast legal experience spanning over 30 years in the public sector. And a milestone, Raila's daughter, in quotes there, set to be the first female CS from Turkana County. Look at that story. And I see here it's a win for the Turkana County following President William Ruto's nomination of Beatrice Askulmo as Cabinet Secretary, East African Community. All right, that's a story on page 2. Page 3, teachers issue fresh strike threat over failure to pay new salaries. Kupet and NAT accuse state of not implementing the pay hike this month. Schools reopening for third term in September could be jeopardized, and we pray that this doesn't get to that level. But this is a story on page 3. Page 4, team proposes radical changes to tame rogue religious leaders is the story that we have touched on. And I see here that more on the same, their mandate will entail the facilitation of intra-faith and interfaith dialogue, coordination of resource sharing, and promotion of ethical and moral standards. So there will be a Religious Affairs Commission and umbrella bodies consisting of 20 registered religious organizations and present in 24 countries. That's a story on page 4. Religion on trial is the heading. And page 5, how a cult is formed and danger signs to watch for. Very, very interesting story here. I see cult characteristics, which I will read out. Overexpression of charisma, control, demand, and abuse. Over exalting spiritual leaders with pompous names such as apostle, prophet, bishop, pastor, servant of God. I see extreme degree of control over members' lives, including dictating what they can wear and also eat. Extreme intolerance for questions or critical inquiry. Involvement in mind altering such as sleep deprivation, chanting, humiliation, starvation, and drugs. I see here discouragement from contact with outsiders, including close family members. We have deployment of you, us versus them mentality and other forms of indoctrination. Requirement for intense or extreme sacrifices such as time, money, and other resources. Lopsided accountability structures where leaders are lords unto themselves, preying on vulnerabilities of populations such as poverty and disease. This is a story that you need to read in full on page 5 so that you can see all these telltale signs and analyze, the place that I'm worshiping or where I go for my spiritual nourishment. Could it be that there's some wanting characteristics? So, page 6, Team 1's 30-year-old devil worship report implemented. The report handed to former President Daniel Arap Moi was never made public, but this time it is meant to be made public because it is long overdue since 1994. And page 7, JKIA lists the fine print in Adani's demands, a story that we have been looking into. The 38 airports in Kenya will not be upgraded to compete globally for the next 30 years. The Indian firm will enjoy unlimited access to any size of land at JKIA and tax exemptions. This is a story on page 7. Page 8, the planned impeachment bid against DP splits Mount Kenya. Some politicians say the president's silence could mean he supports the alleged impeachment. UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala, an ally of the DP, is also under siege. I see here the Kiambu Senator here, Karungo Wathangwa, here saying the biggest problem is the leaders and not the electorate. Instead of fighting Gachagua, the leaders should defend him so that our community can have a say. That's a story on page 8. Allow me to go straight to the sports on the Standard. Malkia strikers not giving up on their dreams. So national volleyball team determined to cause problems for fancied Poland. Munala's charges have not yet won a single set in their Olympics history. And coming to page 30, Kipchoge versus Bekele duel. It started in Paris. And will it end there? That's the question. The two athletics rivals began their battle at the 2003 World Championships in the French capital. The two have many things in common, including growing up in the Great Rift Valley and vast business interests. That's on the Paris 2024 updates. And going to the Daily Nation just briefly, I see Gashagua's aides quizzed by police. I see here 3 close aides of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua were yesterday questioned by detectives over alleged links to the recent youth-led protest that forced President William Ruto to make major concessions, among them withdrawal of the finance bill and dissolution of his cabinet. This even as talk of an impeachment motion against the DP persists. This is a story on page 4. Still backing up what we have also touched on hapo kwenye Standard. And on the parenting DN2 today is breastfeeding is not for the faint-hearted. I believe that those who are mothers would really relate to this particular one. New moms, that's the DN2 today on the Daily Nation. And I see page 2 here, Haiti gangs fall back on guerrilla tactics as mission record wins. Kenyan and Haitian police have managed to wrest control of key hospital and port from the gangs. This is a story on page 2. Page 3, Jacob Juma's widow loses bid to stop eviction from Loresho land. Ms. Juma has been embroiled in a legal battle over the ownership of 1.3 billion piece of land in Loresho. This is Jacob Juma's widow. Bench of 3 judges of appellate court dismissed the application by Ms. Miriam Juma. That's a story on page 3. Page 4, Cold War in Coast on Joho cabinet entry. I see here nomination of former Mombasa governor has sparked a supremacy battle in the region. UDA battle pits deputy party leader Hassan Omar against Nyali MP Mohammed Ali, who covets the seat. That's a story on page 5. And page 6, Nation Media Group chief bids workers farewell after 17 years. That's a story on page 6. NMG Chief Financial Officer Richard Tobiko is set to assume the CEO role in acting capacity. And of course, a story we touched on the Standard, Oduor to become first female AG as Ruto fills cabinet slots. And moving on to the back page, Ruto Task Force calls for tougher regulation of religious activities. Still a story that was reported on the Standard, so you can look at more of the same. That is on the Daily Nation back page. Kenyan fans brave crunch to storm Paris Olympics. That's a story on page 30. Remember, the Paris Olympics are set to go until August the 11th. And I see outside Gedi at the Stade de France, a Kenyan bar welcomes patrons with a large banner reading. Look at that story, and it's a very beautiful banner. I love 254. I love Kenya. All right. Hundreds of Kenyans touring Paris for the games have come mainly from the United Kingdom and also USA, with others checking in from parts of Europe, and they are following Team Kenya athletes with gusto from rugby, volleyball to swimming. And page 29, what next for football after court stops FKF from running the game? That's a story on page 29. So that's it for the newspaper review. Now we know what's happening in our country, but most importantly, we know how to pray. And even with this big news that we have now about religion being followed up with, to make sure that we don't have false prophets and all that, we are praying and hoping that this will actually be a great move for our country, so that we can expose all these things that are happening chini ya maji without us knowing. But anyway, it's also a call for us to be careful. Even as you go to church, read the Bible for yourself, so that nobody is going to take you like this. Be like the Bereans. All right. So we are going now to have a look at the video of the day. When we come back, we'll talk about it.